I'd be lying if I was to say that having the opportunity to coach the national team one day was not a dream of mine. Yeah, if I'm brutally honest.
Welcome to Across the Line. On this episode, we go through all of your questions for the great Rob Gier. We posted on our social media pages that he was going to be coming on, and there was a flood of questions, and we figured we separate it as an entire episode on its own. We appreciate everybody who reached out and asked questions about his playing career, his coaching career, and sort of his memories as being part of the Azkals for 7 years. So we go through all of that in this episode. If you enjoy it and all the rest of the content that we provide here on the podcast, we sure do hope that you subscribe over on YouTube, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Enjoy this episode. Okay, this one coming from Claro Manzano off of the Instagram. What was running through your head in your first international cap?
Just super proud. It was always about being able to represent my mum and my mum's side of the family, which meant a lot to me. So, standing there in the lineup when the anthem's going off, it was just an incredibly proud moment. But it's also, again, like being a footballer, there's an element of nerves with all that, because you don't want to, it's my first big game for the team. I probably had a background that people, I was probably the most experienced player at the time, at that point, because obviously Neil hadn't played at the Championship or anything, or the Premier League at that point. So there was a certain amount of expectation on me. So there's an element of nerves as well. It's just, that kind of that nervousness in your tummy, but the overriding feeling was of huge amount of pride.
Here's one from Ulrich Marx Studio Montenegro. It's a long name. Same as Kenneth Manlangit Madragon. They have a similar question. Who was the Azkal player you felt was the most difficult to defend?
Oh, most difficult to defend against? An Azkal player, did you say?
Yeah.
Phil was always tricky, obviously. If he got half a yard, then if you gave him half a yard, he would probably hit the target. Angel was a handful. He's physical, right? And Angel was one of those guys that he was super physical. He had a trick, but you'd get a little nick on the ball. It would come off his shin, and instead of going out for a throw, it would fall lovely into his path, and he would just body you out of the way. He was that kind of a guy. Jimmy, like from corners, Jimmy was always a danger from some set pieces. Goodness. Like the Angel would be the most unorthodox, which is you never know what he's going to do. So it poses you a problem as a centre after how do you deal with it.
Angel Gerardo too, huh? Having a resurgence.
Yeah, right.
Back in the squad as well. Interesting journey that he's had. Were there any players outside of the team of the Azkals that you recall, maybe that played for Singapore or any of the other teams that you went up against that stood out for you? Like, woof, that guy's a player.
Well, I mean, like in 2010, Alexander Gier had a reputation. Just like everything that I hated playing against, he was big and physical, strong. So I knew, again, we talked about it earlier, I knew that I couldn't get around him and body him. Had to think of a different way. But some of the players, the guys from Malaysia, some of the guys from Safi Sally, some of the guys from Vietnam, they just had a huge amount of quality and technical ability, and they're quick, so I was coming towards the end of my career. So when I joined, like 2010, I was coming towards I certainly wasn't in my prime anymore, or my peak physical fitness of how quick I was. So yeah, any of those guys that they're so sharp, with it, like really strong technical capabilities. So the pace was always a big issue that I had to kind of find a way to deal with.
Was there ever any consideration for you to jump into a Philippine team, like a Philippine club?
There was a point that kind of crossed my mind. My daughter was born in 2011. So, and obviously my wife was pregnant, building up to that, like throughout 2011. So it just wasn't really the right time for me to leave her. So, I mean, I spoke to a couple of people a few times. I wouldn't say that I was close to coming, but there were conversations that were had. But I just couldn't take myself away from, a new family, essentially. So it was, even when I went out to the Maldives in the Challenge Cup, my son was born like a week before I flew out. So he was born a week late. I think it was even like 5 days later. I was jumped on a plane to come out to Challenge Cup to the Maldives, and we were out there obviously all the way to the end of the competition. So yeah, it's my family is everything to me. So I would have really struggled to go over at a time when it was all on the up. So while it was a consideration, I don't think it was ever a realistic option for me to go full time over there anyway.
Here's perhaps the most important of all the questions. This one's from Sheila Flaminiano across over the Facebook page of Across the Line. What's your secrets for looking young, Daddy Rob? Is the question.
Okay, cool. I still get ID'd going to buy alcohol at Waitrose. So, well, I guess it's the Filipino genes. That's all it can be, right? That's all it can be. Yeah. Certainly not the English genes.
Yeah, you posted a picture on your Twitter about like a 10-year glow up or something like that. There was the picture was like 22 years apart, and you look identical, pretty much. It's pretty impressive.
I know all that surgery's working all right, mate. So we're doing all
right. All right, this was from Pancho over the Facebook page. This is a very interesting question. It might require a little bit of discussion, actually. What do you think it's going to take to make football a popular sport in the Philippines?
I do think everything has to stem. I think the national team has a huge part to play in that. I think continued success for the national team has its part to play, but everything must come back to grassroots. It must come back to, we must start planting the seeds for the younger generation, and and we have to be patient with that. We have to be patient that their love of the game continues to evolve as they get older and older. And then hopefully we should see that a little ways down the line. I mean, people like Chrissy and all the other academies that are doing great work, keeping these young kids involved. Anton as well, driving the love of the game is really important. We have to get the league sorted out. I mean, I'm a step removed from it all now, so I don't know all the ins and outs, what's going on with the league, but there needs to be a sustainable professional league for sure. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be professional, but there needs to be a sustainable league, in my opinion. But everything must come. It must grow from the bottom up. It has to. It really has to.
And perhaps just hopping onto that, when you're looking down the road, at any point when you're envisioning it, does it lead back to the Philippines, whether it's through coaching, getting involved through an academy, touching up on grassroots, a professional team, the national team? Does it lead back to the Philippines for you? Yeah.
I'd be lying if I was to say that having the opportunity to coach the national team one day was not a dream of mine. Yeah, if I'm brutally honest, I, how that would ever come about and when that would ever come about, I don't know. Whether I'd be lucky enough to get that opportunity, I don't know. But it would just be, it'd be not closure, but I think it would be a nice kind of another story arc really in my career, one that I would relish. But the guys that are working with the national team at the moment have had a load of success and are doing a great job. I'm really enjoying my work here in the Philippines, over in Reading at the moment. Learning as we're going along and developing myself as a coach and my own philosophies and game models and all that kind of stuff is changing all the time and evolving. But yeah, I mean, I think there's one day I would love to have that opportunity. Just when it comes along, I'm sure when that would be.
There was very little, how should you say, surprise that you went straight into coaching shortly after your career ended as a player. Even as a player, you would hear stories about, reports that you were writing up or, certain briefs that you had on the opposition, and everybody was sort of talking about your capability as a coach already. I know Chris would speak about this as well, that it seemed that you were already taking the steps towards becoming a coach. And for some people, it seemed an inevitability that you would become part of the coaching staff of the Philippines at some point. So I'm sure it would be a welcome sight for a lot of people to see you somehow get involved, whether it's through a national youth team or for the senior side for that matter.
Yeah, like I say, I've got a great job at the moment, which I'm really enjoying. The guys down at Reading are brilliant, and my staff underneath me and the guys that I'm working with are just a joy to work around. But yeah, I mean, when I first retired from the national team, like there was never a point that I remember when I was a bit younger, I thought I'm never going into coaching. It didn't really interest me.
Yeah.
But as kind of time went on, you're right. I used to do some analysis stuff for the national team. I used to work for the national team. I used to do a load of analysis stuff and statistical reports and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I mean, because the national team was such a major part of my life for 6 years, and I've so much affiliation to everyone involved in it and the sport as a whole, it would, like I say, it would be a nice chapter in my career to end up there in some capacity. But it's kind of like the guys at the top know where I am. If they ever wanted to reach out. But yeah, I think everyone's doing a great job with the national team at the moment. It's unfortunate that this is, the current situation has meant that the June games have been postponed. I was actually thinking of coming over in June to see the qualifiers. I'm hoping to use it as a bit of a study camp as well, to go and speak to a few people and go and see, just to do a little bit more learning and things like that. So I'm sure I'll be out into the Philippines at some point within the next year, and I'd love to catch an Azkal game and just to meet as many people as I can, really.
We look forward to it. Hopefully there will be some games to be had sometime this year. Kevin Estrada and Justin Ray Leonard Mancho wanted to ask you about a particular player that you might be coaching over at Reading. I'm not particularly familiar with her, but there's a player by the name of Mayumi Pacheco. Is that correct? I'm not sure if she's part of the senior squad.
Yeah, she's part of the senior squad. Yeah, she plays for our she's involved in England under 21s. Yeah.
Ah, she is. All right. They were asking if there's any possibility at all of her suiting up for the Malditas. So I'm assuming she's got Filipino blood.
You know what? I didn't actually know that. But I know that she's involved with England under 21s at the moment. She's, she's obviously involved with our first team. So I don't know. I mean, you could ask the question, right?
Yeah. This might be the start of that that career path for her. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, incredible stuff from Kevin Estrada to even know about Mayumi Pacheco. That's pretty impressive. Let me see here. Just asking if you're interested in the PFL, which I'd assume if there was some stability, it would be something that you'd consider. But it's not looking that way at the moment. If you were coaching the national team right now, this one's from Jonald Kiambao. Theoretically, in an alternate universe, if you were the coach right now, who would be in your starting 11? Would you rattle off names at now, or is that tough?
Yeah, no, that's a bit tough because, like at the moment, I'm an armchair viewer. I'm a, in order for me to be, I'm a fan. So, my biases would lean towards the people that I know and that I've worked with before. So, and that's just unfair on people like Strauss, who I don't know. I know Chris speaks really highly of him. So until you really get to know, until you get to know your squad, to be able to pick an 11 I would be doing it without enough knowledge, to be honest. So, my bias would just be towards those guys that I've worked with, and I know what they can do, which is really unfair on the rest of the squad that are playing there, because I know that they're all super talented players. So hopefully I'll get to work with them one day and I can pick my own 11.
100%. Here one's from Alvin Sarmiento. Actually, he's a professional player. He's played for several clubs here in the Philippines, and he's interested in finding out what's the differences in playing in the Philippines and in English leagues. I'm not sure how much experience you have watching the Philippine League, but yeah, what would be your opinion on the biggest?
I can't really speak for the league, but I mean I can speak on an international terms. It's obviously, well, away from the pitch, it's the heat, obviously. So that's a huge difference, and that's something that it does play a major part in how one would prepare for games. Football here in the UK is. It's not life, but it's so ingrained in culture. Every aspect of, now that there's no Premier League going on, it's people don't know what to do with themselves at the moment. On every street corner, there's a goal, there's a park, there's a goal where you can go and have a kickabout. It's on the back page of every paper every single day. There's pundit. Do you know what I mean? It's everywhere. It's all encompassing here. In terms of style of play, I would have thought that it's probably a little bit more physical here. In terms of like in terms of body contact, maybe there might be a few more dark arts here in the UK, especially down in the lower leagues. Certain off the ball elements and all that kind of stuff. So it's really hard. It's really hard to pick differences. At the end of the day, football's football. Do you know what I mean? So undoubtedly there'll be teams here in the UK that are very, very similar to how a Vietnam would play, or how a Malaysia would play. Football's football. At the end of the day, it's two teams of 11 trying to score as many goals as they possibly can, essentially. So there's always going to be crossover, and I guess that's why we love it, that there's so many different permutations for every game we play.
Yeah. This was from Angel de Luna over the Facebook page. You might have seen the episode about the Azkals 11, right? You don't have to run through an entire 11, but he's asking about your best teammates that you've had actually, he's asking for club and national team level, but for I suppose relatability of the rest of the listeners, let's stick with the Azkals. Who would be the best that you've played with?
Wow, that's tough because there's so many different. Going through, I think Chris was probably pretty spot on, to be fair, with his selection. There's some of the players that have gone through I've played with, been lucky enough to play with. And different players for different reasons. I got on really well with Ray. And he was one of those that kind of, you knew what you would get every single week with Ray. He was just a really great friend to me as well. So I was lucky enough to play with him. You've got Jerry Lucena. I think Chris has touched on his abilities before, but yeah, I mean, what a player he was. Absolutely phenomenal player. If he'd have come to the national team a little bit earlier, he's the kind of player that you probably would have built your team around, to be honest. Shrocky does stuff with the football that I haven't seen other people do. Phil, I mean, I could rattle off everyone. They've all got huge qualities. So I didn't envy you guys when you had to pick your all-time Azkals 11. I was just pleased that I made it in there, which was nice. I don't know who you are.
And basically, you said I was right as well.
Pretty, but you got to go through it. Neil in goal.
You know what? When you mentioned Ray, I don't know if I picked Ray or did I pick Ray or did I pick Sato?
No, he didn't make it.
Yeah. So yeah, but Ray was the one where he was pretty. It was a bit cutthroat. Not having him in the lineup. That was a bit of a difficult one, but
yeah, the tough one. I don't know who I would pick. Like my centre half partner. That's a tough one as well, even for me, having played with both of them.
Yeah.
Wani and Ali.
Wani and Ali, yeah. Me and Wani complemented each other really well. The balance of a righty and a lefty worked really nicely. But Ali's Ali, man, right? It's Mr. Philippines. So, yeah, I don't know who I'd pick on that. I really don't know.
I think we picked that. Yeah, I think you picked Ali in the end, didn't we? You picked Ali.
Yeah.
Anton right back?
You went Stoible, didn't you? I think.
I picked Stoible. Stoible. Jerry. I think myself and Shrocky. And then Phil, James, Chiefy, right? That's what we had. That was the 11.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'd done. Yeah, I'd agree with that, mate. I'd agree with that as well. I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
So many good players, so difficult because you've got an emotional link to all of them in a certain way as well, right? So I didn't envy your task there at all, but
yeah.
Yeah, it was a tough one. There's a question here about the little Azkals. Not too familiar with this, actually. Do you have an experience with the little Azkals? This one's coming from FC.
back in well, you're gathered now. My recollection of years and stuff isn't great, but they were over here. They did a tour over here. Played. They had a little camp, and I went and visited them and watched one of their games. I went to one of their training sessions and went to one of their games while they were over here. They had a training session over in at Loughborough University, and they played a game against Leicester City as well. So I came and said hey and met the guys, and yeah, it was great. It was really nice. I think it was run by Prue Life. I think they might have been the backers behind that. I think.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that project.
Yeah.
This one is from Frederick Bauzon over the Facebook page. He's asking about the process of getting a UEFA license, which I think we touched up on in the main interview. But Chris had quite a few celebrity classmates. Did you have any while you were taking your A license?
Yeah. So the course that we took as well was aimed at either ex-players or people that are involved in the game. So yeah, we had a few guys on there. Brown was on there on my course. Gary O'Neill.
Brown.
Yeah, Wes Brown from Man United.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. I'm a Manchester United fan, so yeah. Wes Brown. I know him. Yeah.
There was a couple of other guys there that had done, played kind of in the lower league. Well, I say lower leagues, like League One Championship teams as well. So yeah, I mean, it was cool. It's really good, like just to networking opportunity and just to talk football. Really, it was everyone kind of knew the football world. Even though there's a lot of people involved in it, you'll always know someone that knows someone that knows someone. Do you know what I mean? So you're never too far away from a connection from someone else. But there were quite a few Premier League players on my course.
All right, I think we've run through most of them. Victor Prado wanted to let you know that the moment when you scored a goal against Indonesia in the Suzuki Cup in 2014 really stuck with him. Something about the vibe and the smile of your celebration, I guess, stuck with him.
I didn't score many goals, so yeah, I remember that one. Played a 1-2 with the post, so it was. It's a good photo actually, because Chrissy comes close. I think it's Chrissy and Simone Rota are the first people on the team. So yeah, no, that was a nice. And I've got a picture with all the boys in the background as well, like Jimmy and Size there as well. It's just a nice moment really. I didn't score many like Chrissy. Didn't score many important ones.
I'm not sure if that's your Twitter header. Is it? I
that's
remember
it.
seeing. That's the one.
That's the one.
The expressions of the faces of the people in the warm-up area, pretty priceless.
Yes, because everyone's so surprised I actually scored. That's why. Doesn't happen very often.
But wow, that's a fantastic result against Indonesia. Does it shock you that we still haven't gone on to play in a final in the Suzuki Cup?
Yeah, it does. It does. It's just, it's not through want of effort, right? So it's just it will happen eventually. But it is a bit of a surprise that we haven't managed to get there quite yet.
Yeah, but 3 out of 4 semis, not so bad. Not a bad run, but as we spoke about, there's that expectation now that it's like, all right, of course we're in the semis, but now what next, right? And I guess we're a victim of that own expectation now. I think we've run through all of the questions. I mean, thank you to everybody who came out and asked over the Facebook page, on Instagram, even some on Twitter and over the forums. We appreciate you guys reaching out, and if you guys have any suggestions on who you'd like to see next in the hot seat after Rob, please do let us know. And you guys know the ways to do that. As usual, if you guys enjoy the content that we provide on Across the Line, please do subscribe over on our YouTube or Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. That's about it. Rob, anything else you'd like to say?
No, guys, thanks for having me on. I think this might have to be a 2-parter again, like Neil's seems to have.
100%.
Definitely a long one.
I've been looking forward to coming on for a long time, and I hoped could have done it in studio. But thank you for taking the time to let me reminisce. It's nice at times to be able to do that. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, mate, for coming on. Appreciate you being so insightful and open and honest with your accounts and recounts of your Azkal career. And again, thank you for coming on, taking the time to speak to us. We really appreciate it.
Nice one,
Rob
boys.
Gier, folks. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your Football Friday.